When it comes to saving queries or making graph accessible, one way to do this within PuppyGraph is to use the dashboard feature. When you click on the dashboard entry on the left-hand menu, you'll be brought to the dashboard screen. By default, you should see a few tiles here already. First, you'll be able to see a vertex tile showing how many nodes are within your dataset, an edge tile showing how many edges are within your dataset, vertex labels showing the different labels and the count of these nodes. You can also see that we have a graph sample here. And then lastly, we can see we have a vertex samples tile here. Under the hood, each of these has a query running. If I click the edit button on a tile, I can see that I can edit the title of that tile, the query. So in this case, we have a g.v.count query going here, which is how we're getting that vertex count. And then we can change the display type as well to be either text, which is what we see here, graph, which is what we see here, or table, which is what we saw under the vertex samples. Now, this is a great way to save graph queries and present them to people who are maybe less fluent with graph querying, or just to keep a query so that you can return to it later. The great part about these dashboards is that these are real-time dashboards. So every single time that this dashboard is loaded, it's going to fetch the latest data so these dashboards are up to date. If I want to add a new tile, I can do that by clicking the plus button here, then clicking the edit button. Now we'll name this tile first 10 patients by ID. The query that will run will be this g.v has label patient, order by subject ID, and limit to the top 10. Then we'll click table. And for column mapping, I'll use the ID column and we'll rename that as patient ID. Then for label, we'll rename this column as type. Then I'll click submit. Then here we can see first 10 patients by ID, the patient ID, and then also that they are of type patient. Now, alternatively, instead of displaying this as a table, we could also switch this to be displayed as a graph. When we do that, we get to pick our graph layout, either as radial, vertical, or force. We'll leave this as radial. And then we can also do this as a scale to fit. So making sure that the graph is fully visible within the pane. If I click this off and click submit, we can now see that I've got my 10 patients in graph form. If I make this bigger, we can see that the rendering is then scaled to fit. If I make this smaller, we can then see that, again, the canvas of the visualization is then scaled to fit. So using this, we can create and save various graph queries to make them easily accessible. To learn more about the features of PuppyGraph, visit our website at www.puppygraph.com.